Welcome back everyone to Blender and Unreal Engine becoming a dungeon prop artist. Now, the first thing we want to do is just set up a basic material. After what you've learned, we might as well set that up. Then what we'll do is we'll bring in our lighting, and then finally we'll actually look at applying that actual material to our actual table. All right, so first of all, let's come over to the right-hand side, and what we'll do is we'll bring in a new material. So we're going to call it new. And then what I tend to do with this is I tend to call the material the same name as what my textures are based on. So if I open up now our textures, and I'll bring this over, so we can see, if I open this up, we've got three types of iron. And these are important because with the metals, we've got three types of iron and we can swap between them and check them out and see what they actually look like. We've also got another iron, which is the weapon iron, which I don't think we should be using because it's pretty shiny, that iron. So we've got iron dark, iron grainy, and iron old. So what I tend to do is I'll come in, I'll grab this one and I'll copy the iron dark, so Control C, and then what I'll do is I'll put this down and I'll double click it, Control V, iron dark. That's to make sure as well, because when I bring these textures in, they're all going to be named iron dark, and it makes sure that everything kind of goes together. All right, so now what we want to do is we actually want to put this material on something. So what I'm going to do is, instead of putting it straight on my table, I'm going to press Shift A. I'm going to bring in a cube. I'm going to bring my cube over. I'm going to then come back to my table, minus this iron dark off, because at the moment, this iron dark is applied to this table, and it's certainly not going to look right. So I'm going to actually make this cube a little bit smaller, like so. And then I'm going to come back to my table, minus it off, come back to my cube, click the little down arrow because we don't need to create a new material because we've already got it. And you'll see you've got one called iron dark. All right, so now we can actually go in and see what this actually looks like. So I'm going to come over now to my shadings panel. And this basically is, as you've seen in the introduction to materials, this is basically how we're actually going to bring in all of our textures and things like that. Let's set this as well onto our material. And then what will happen is every time now I come to my shading panel, it will be exactly the same setup as when I first left it, which is really, really handy. All right, so now I need to actually come to edit, go down to preferences, and I need to bring in my node wrangler like I showed you how to do in that short tutorial. So I'm going to come in, node wrangler, click it on, refresh, and close it down. Okay, so let's press dot to zoom to my cube. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my principal. I'm going to press Control, Shift, and T. And now what I want to do is I want to bring in all of those textures for iron dark. So you can see again, because we've called it the right name as well, that's going to make it much, much easier. So I'm going to go to where it says Blender Build, click the up arrow, and then what I want to do is I want to come down to where it says Textures, double click it, and now you can see, if I open this up, we've got all of these down here. Now, the thing is, at the moment, I can see these are really, really big, and that's probably not so helpful. So if I put it on here, now I can actually see them much, much better. So this is the one we want, iron dark. We can see we've got all of these materials, including a opacity as well. So what I want to do is I want to come and drag them all in. So I'm going to grab the top one, shift select the bottom one, click my principal like so, and bring them all in. And you can see this is what we end up with. So already looking pretty nice. Now at the moment, the ambient occlusion is not actually set up. So it's not set up. So I've got to make sure that when I come to put them on my table, that it will be set up and we will be able to see how it works properly. So I don't want to do that yet. What I want to do first of all is set up all of these materials except the ambient occlusion. Now you will notice when we bring that in, the best thing is if you're using the newer version of Blender, is that it actually brings in the opacity, which is this one here, and it's put it actually in the alpha. So that's really good if you are using opacity. The next thing is, you can see we've got little bumps and things like that on there. If we want to make these little bumps and things like that bigger, all we need to do is come down and increase the strength of our actual normal. I'm not going to do that at the moment. I'm just showing you that's how it would work. Now, the other things at the moment, we're not actually going to touch. We're going to leave them as they are, and that's pretty much set up. Now, let's come in and bring in another material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift D on my cube. I'm going to press Shift Spacebar again because my move tool's not there. Again, if you've not, Shift Spacebar's not working, just press T, bring in your move tool, and then move it over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to minus this off. So I'm going to minus this off. I'm going to open up my textures again. So textures are here. And we've got one that says iron grainy. So I'm going to click it, copy this with Control C, put that down, new, double click it, Control V, and now let's bring in the iron graining. So Control, Shift and T, and let's go up one, and we're looking for iron grainy, which is this one here. Again, I'm going to grab them all going down, click the principle like so, and there we go. We can see this is a completely different type of metal. It's got a lot of different shine in it and things like that. All right, again, we're going to leave that as it is, and I'm going to Shift D, bring it over. I'm going to move them a little bit closer together, like so. And then what we're going to do is bring in our next material. So I'm going to come in with this one, minus it off. By the way, you can't minus materials off if you're in edit mode, so just make sure you're in object mode, minus it off, click new, and then what I'm going to do is, again, same sort of thing. I'm going to open up my textures, and we're going to bring in iron old. So click it, copy this part, Control C, and let's come in, double click it, Control V, enter, come down to my principled, Control Shift T, and then we're going to go to the iron old. So iron old is here, double click it, Shift select them all, bring them in, and there we go. So now you can see we've got 3 different types of metal. It's really good this because you can see actually, right, what sort of material do I actually want on my actual table, for instance. So what I tend to do is I will put these out somewhere. So let's say in the front, somewhere like that. And then what I'll do is I'll actually put them in their own collection. So I'm going to make a new collection, right click, and I'm just going to call it materials. So you can see my new collection is here. Let's call it materials, like so. And then what we'll do is we'll grab all 3 of these and join them in. Now, anytime we alter a material, it is going to alter these anyway. Now, the other thing is you might as well name your materials because at the moment, it might be hard for you to actually go down them. So all you need to do is just double click this one, for instance, double click this, press Control V and just rename them like so. Just makes it a little bit easier to actually get along with this. So Control V, and finally this one, double click it, Control C, and double click this one, Control V, and there we go. So now we've done that, let's make sure these materials are set up properly. And to do that, we really need to bring some lighting into here so we can actually see what we're doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in just a plane, just a simple plane. So I'm going to grab all 3 of these. I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to selected. That's going to put in the center of those. And then let's just bring in a plane. So bring in a plane like so. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to make sure that these materials are sat on top of it, like so. The plane actually has gone into my materials, which is really good because that's where I want it. And I'm just going to call it material plane, like so. I'm also going to give this a material, but I might as well use one of the materials I already had. So you can see I've got material and default. So I'll just use this and I'll call it material plane. So Control C, Control V, like so. And what I'm going to do now is with this, I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. So I'm just going to come to where the base color is. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit darker, like so. And you can see my guy's also gone a little bit dark because that is the same material on it. Not going to do anything else with this material. All I want to do is use it to actually get my ambient occlusion. All right, but before we do ambient occlusion, we need to actually bring in some lighting so we can actually see what we're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our lighting. Now, the way you want to do that is in the file that actually came with the download pack. So you can see here, if I go back, you'll see you've got one called HDR lighting. And basically, this is an actual blend file. Now, the best thing about this blend file is you can use it in all of your other builds from now on. You can bring it in, and then you can reset your Blender to the default. So what do I mean by that? Once you brought it in, you go to File, and you're going to Defaults, and you're going to Save Start File. So when you first load up Blender, bring in this HDRI, save it out as the default, and then you're going to have your lighting already set up for you. And that's the really, really good thing. But let's now bring it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File. Well, actually, I'll show you first of all. If we bring in lighting, you'll see it looks like this. If we come over to our lighting in the world, you'll see it looks like this. Not really anything. You can turn up you can change the color, you can change the strength. There's not a lot to work with there. So let's bring in our own lighting, which is real world lighting. So let's come to File. We're going to go to Append. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up and we're going to find that HDRI setup, double click it. double click your blend file, and then what you're going to do, you're going to go down to where it says world, so this one here, double click it, and we'll see we have the HDRI set up. Double click that. Now, nothing happens, but if you come over to the right hand side, click the little down arrow, put it on HDRI setup, and there we go. Now we have real world lighting. Now, of course, we do want to actually do a few things with this, because at the moment, this actual lighting, it might not be bright enough. You might not want the clouds at the back. You might want the sunshine, for instance, around the other way and things like that. So we do need to go in on the next lesson and alter some of the options. Just before we do that though, to actually see the options, you come down to where it says object here, in shading panel, and just go down to where it says world, and we'll just have that set up ready for us for the next lesson. Come up to file, save it out, and I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.